Honestly, people hate on the winter time when it comes to exercise and working out, but I, for one, I think we all probably are going to agree. I love it. I think it has its perks, mainly
I don't know if
because
I love it.
I love it in the aspect of you run faster and your
Yeah,
heart
that's
rate
true.
stays lower.
That's true.
That's one thing that I think we take for granted. And I realized that when I did my big run last weekend, was I looked at my average heart rate for the whole day across the 50 miles was like 143. And I'm like, and that was with my body temperature getting up, but it was so cold outside. Once my body got warm, my heart rate stayed low.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's something that like you take for granted during your training and you don't really think about a lot because you step outside and it's cold and automatically people get soft and they're like, oh, it's too cold to work out. It's too cold to
What
run.
Wade does.
Yeah, that's what Wade
That's
does.
why I
And I was
stay inside during the winter, guys. That's why I stay inside.
no, so I think that's why today goes in line with the topic of winter training and how it looks for each of us, but also hopefully people can get some tips from us on how to navigate it and ways that they can stay productive during the winter training by giving examples of what we're up to and how we train during the winter.
I
So
like the positivity today. Logan.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah. So it's easy to have a negative outlook on it. So I think that it's a good topic today. So Abby, what's on the agenda? What's it looking like?
All right, so we're going to start off strong, okay? And then from here, we're going to kind of build on top of it. But first, we're like, why are we going to listen to 4 random people talking on a random Monday or whenever you listen to this? Maybe it's Tuesday, maybe it's Wednesday. Whenever you're listening to this, hi. If you're on a run right now, keep going.
Even better.
Let's go. But yeah, what is some credibility that you have? Like, how long have you been training? How long have you been doing this? When did you get into it? And then have that lead into what are you currently training for now?
Oldest to youngest?
All right.
Kevin?
I looked
The most
around.
wisdom, maybe? I don't know about that. but-
So I started running. So my background was in baseball, really. And I ran when I was younger, actually, like 9 to 12 years old. I would run every night on my own. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I didn't.
2 miles a night. But then I stopped. I started trying to get bigger, faster, stronger. None of that ever actually worked, but I tried. And so I
Or
stopped.
happened.
Still trying.
So I put my endurance training on pause for about a long time, 15 years probably. And after I got released from minor league baseball, I got fat and lazy. So I put on, probably 30. Well, I don't know. I was a lot heavier back then because I was, trying to muscle mass and stuff like that. But then that muscle dwindled and then the body fat started growing. So I was about 200 pounds and hadn't really done anything consistently for 5 years. Read the book Born to Run. So if anybody's ever heard of that book, it was a pretty impactful book in the earlier 2000s. And it just kind of changed my perception of running. Like, it's like, oh, this could actually be enjoyable. So started running 2015 and been going ever since. So gosh, I guess like 10 years now.
Crazy. 2015 doesn't seem like 10
Probably,
years ago.
I think I've done 10 or 12 ultras, a couple 2 marathons, and but yeah. So still don't know what I'm doing, but still figuring it out as I go.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you're training for? I know that was part of the question.
Was
Any
that
big
part of the
events?
question?
Yeah.
Nothing on the calendar. I am training for the 2062
Here we go. That's one I was.
You are
Western-
training for something. Yeah.
Western
Yeah.
States 100. So that's in what, 37 years?
Yeah. You'll be 75, right?
Yeah, 70 when I'm 75. June 23rd, 2062 is the Western States, and that's my motivation right now.
So go ahead and clip that, post that on social. Let's go ahead and get this going. So
Yeah, tag Western
has
States.
to let him in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
on
Western
that
States,
date.
you actually have to let him in the race now because this is in his eulogy. So
Yeah, I
if
know.
Western
don't,
States
this
does
will-
not
yeah,
let
Pretty messed
What
up.
if I don't get in?
if Western States doesn't let you in the race, then
I
your
have to change
eulogy,
my whole
your
eulogy.
legacy will never be fulfilled. Everything you read on your
Oh,
eulogy in the
gosh.
morning won't matter anymore. So really,
Yeah.
it's kind of in their ball court.
Yeah, they pretty
It's on
much
their
do have to-
stage.
They have to let me in.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Wade. What about you? Give us some credit. Give some cred, and then give us what you're training
See,
for.
this cred is hard to come by, but since Kevin did his whole biography of his running
All right,
from 2
District Player of the
miles
Year.
back in like what
What?
2001. Well, we'll start then. No, I actually. So, did you all know that I ran cross country in high school?
I don't think I
I
know
didn't
that.
know that.
Exactly.
Did you know I was the turkey trot age group champion when I was 12?
Not in Breckenridge County.
2048 karaoke.
I was like,
He's never
I don't. Was I
ran
even
my
born
race.
yet when you guys were doing
You
this?
probably weren't.
I probably was not. No, how much older are you than me?
I don't know.
No, I was like 2 years old.
Logan was still learning how to walk when Kevin was running his
Turkey
first
trot
5K.
12 and under champion.
Oh
Well,
my
that's
gosh.
awesome. Well, mine's not that credible, but I ran cross country in high school for 2 days.
Wow.
Okay, so
Wow.
used to basketball players had to run at our high school their freshman year, just as like a way to help just train for the upcoming season, I guess, and to weed out people that weren't physically capable. But my senior year or my freshman year, the cross country coach got the head basketball coach. So no longer did they have to do that. But the new head cross country coach was a track and field collegiate runner. So he was legit.
Mm.
And my first day, he made us run 7 miles. And I was like,
Oh my
what in the
gosh.
world?
Wow.
Like easy 7 miles. He's like, go out and just run easy 7 miles. And I was like, I've never ran more than a mile in my life.
Is,
Like,
is it ever
awful.
easy?
I showed up in
Did
like
you
my
do it?
basketball tennis shoes. Yeah, I did my 7 miles. And then the second day we did a 2 mile time trial and I had blisters on my feet. We had just with the FFA gone to the state fair. I had ridden water rides. My shoes were wet. My feet were soaked. I had blisters the next day. And I was like, man, this is awful. Like, so I quit after that day. So that's,
man.
I became a quitter that day. So
Wow.
I'm not proud of that, but that gave me some bad taste in my mouth in running. So I was like, man, I don't want to run for a long time. So
Understandably.
just played sports and then picked it back up after I got into PT school. My sister-in-law was always a big runner. So she convinced my wife and I to run the Med Center 10K here in town. And we did it. Didn't really love it, but we really enjoyed it because it was something Janae and I were able to do physically together. And then after that, we signed up for our first half marathon in 2018 and been running ever since.
Who won the half marathon?
You know who won.
Who?
Obviously me.
Did you? I thought Janae beat you.
No.
Oh, okay.
She's never beat me in any of them.
Really?
No.
I thought she beat you in that one.
She's got more mental strength than me, but physically I can still overpower her. Like give her a couple more
Clip
years.
that.
Yeah. A couple more years and she probably would have had me. So but no, Janae's was always a good runner and we just enjoyed running together, honestly. So she ran a half marathon before I did. And then we ran the Bowling Green one together.
Then in 2022, what was it?
What
or
was that?
21? You made your entry into ultra marathon.
Ultra marathon. I don't know. Whatever year that was. Yeah, it was 2021, wasn't it?
Yeah.
2022.
Is it the hard meet?
We did the hard meet endurance run, and man, that was 21. So I was feeling great, showing up for my first race, and then I got injured a month out, and then I still ran anyways after not running for a month. Man, I paid for that for probably like
you
6
finished.
months.
You
I
did good. I
finished.
mean, you did really good.
Finish. It was like 6 hours.
He had this
and
knee brace that
20
had
minutes.
like a hinge. It was going
It was
like moving his
squeaking with each
leg.
other. Like I could not bend my knee. It was awful.
But he still did it.
I still did it.
Hey,
And
tell
then-
us-
And did good. Did good.
And then I've done the hot ultra twice. Hot ultra.
It was hot.
Guys, they got me flustered today. I apologize.
He hasn't
Hot
even
rod
talked about his
ultra
Ironman
marathon.
yet, so just wait till we get to
I've
that.
done that twice, that's a fun event. If you don't know what that is, we'll do a deep dive in that on another podcast. So I've done 3 ultra marathons, I guess, and I have a 4th on the horizon that I was going to talk about today.
Oh.
And then I've done 2 70.3 Ironmans and a few sprint Olympic triathlons, but kind of all over the board. Nothing really super consistent each year to year. But so this year, I don't have anything specifically on the books. There's a new loop in my hometown, probably about 30 minutes from my house. It's a 10K loop. It's a bike path, but you can run on it too. So it's a trail. And then, so for my birthday this year, the last 2 years I've ran my age.
There
So
we
I
go.
want to run my age this year again.
Nice.
So
You did that last year?
Yep. No, 2 years ago.
Okay. So
Yeah, I slacked last year. I think
yeah.
we had
Now
a
you got to
little
do it
kid.
twice this year.
Yeah, I'll do
No
it 60
excuses.
plus miles this
Yeah.
year. So 33 miles on July 2nd, 2025.
Ooh.
Oh,
Hot one.
Y'all
baby.
are coming.
I'm coming.
Okay.
Everybody's
That's at
coming. Everybody's going to run. It's in Rough River.
State Park. I'm
It's not in the state park, but it's close enough where we can
We'll
camp.
camp.
And then I'm going to take off July 2nd. It's my birthday. July 3rd, it's a Thursday. July 4th on a Friday this year. So long weekend to recover. So on Monday's podcast, I won't come in all hazy eyed like I did that
Yeah.
one podcast we did
Ooh,
way
I'm
back in the day.
excited.
So
So what day will you actually run? Will that be
it's a Wednesday.
So you'll do it on the Wednesday?
Yep.
Okay.
That's my
All right.
plan.
We're coming.
Nice.
So
I'll
everybody
just
come up. We can live stream the podcast if you want.
The
If
whole
anybody's that
time.
interested. My goal is to do it. I don't know yet. Under 6 hours for sure. I think it's doable.
Yeah, it's doable.
So we'll see. I don't know what kind of elevation it is. I talked to a guy this weekend if it's a hard course, and he just kind of laughed at me. So I don't even know like what the elevation
that
or anything
means.
looks like. So I'll go try to run it here soon. Just
Yeah.
For those that may not know, because I know some of the people that may be listening to this might be like, how long is a marathon? What's an ultra? Blah, 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 blah. The breakdown. A 5K race is 3.1 miles. A 10K race is 6.2 miles. Running, I mean, you can walk it. You're still accomplishing it. A half marathon is 13.1 miles. And then a full marathon is 26.2 miles. An ultra marathon, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's anything above 26.2.
Yeah.
So there's, different distances that are more normalized, like a 50K or a 100 miler or 50 miler, things like that. But
Mhm.
anything above a marathon is considered an ultra marathon. I like to say that.
Yeah.
After a marathon, if the course is a little bit longer than I actually ran an ultra marathon that day and
Yeah.
things like that. And then an Ironman, y'all are going to have to help me out on this because I don't even think I know
Swim,
that.
bike, run. Give the distance do the 70.3 distance, but the order of events.
So swim, bike, run. 70.3 is a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, followed by a half marathon run. So 13.1 miles.
Yeah,
So
the
total is 70.3 miles. And then if you do a full Ironman, it's 2.4 mile swim to start out into 112 mile bike into a full marathon distance for that.
Yeah, pretty cool. So yeah, from my background, I was a college cheerleader, so really did no type of running or anything at all.
Give us a cheer.
Huh?
Let's go.
I should do a tuck on the live stream
Yeah.
for you guys. No, so I cheered at WKU for 4 years. That's how my wife and I met. So it was a really special place for me. But yeah, it's just a super different type of exercise that I was ever used to. So I did that for 4 years, and then after I graduated college, I wanted something to kind of fill that void again. So I picked up running in 2019, ran my first half marathon, and then like the next day signed up for the full marathon for the following year, which was 2020, and then COVID happened. So I ran a virtual marathon in 2020. And then when I finished that marathon, it was like the first time you do something really physically and mentally hard, and then you do it, and during it you wanted to stop, but you finished anyway. You're like, that was a really powerful feeling because you had total control of, I could have stopped, but I kept going and I finished. And like the feeling of that was really powerful to me. So I remember that like really clicking, and I'm getting chicken skin. I'm getting cold chills. I'm getting cold chills just thinking about that. Long story, Wade. I'm getting cold chills like thinking about that initial feeling of like really wanting that, like, I don't know. And it never gets old. And so anyway, I ran that first marathon. And then that same year I found the organization called MS Run the US, which is a relay across America. And I did that where I ran 5 marathons across 5 days. That was my first introduction to ultra running, like multi-day. So 2020 is when I really went like all in on running and just really started like exploring my limits. So I've done a lot of marathon distance runs, even if they weren't sanctioned marathon races. But I think I've done like 3 official marathons, a couple 50Ks, 3 50-milers, 100-miler, last man standing race.
Which you won.
Which I won.
Kentucky champion. He's still
that was the last race. I wish
champion in Kentucky, last man standing.
I wish he'd bring that race
on this
back.
podcast.
Yeah. Can you believe I'm sitting right here in the flesh?
He is sitting here, y'all.
So I think, but honestly, like the credibility part of it, I think just comes from the trial and error of it all. And I think we can all agree with that. Like the credibility that we have, if you want to call it credibility, is just really, it's just practical experiences. Like, I think that's where everything that we talk about today is going to come from, is the trial and error aspect of all of our fitness that we've acquired up to this point. It's all things that we've actually done, that we've felt and experienced, and it's all evolved. And I think the biggest part the biggest gain from all of this is the mental fortitude, because you find what works and what doesn't work, and that all is stored right here in our brains.
And then we've got Abby, who's faster than all of us. So,
yeah.
Abby, tell about your running resume.
Y'all are always too kind to me on this podcast, but
until she runs a 305, I don't think she's that fast.
No, I've always been a runner. I started running right when I came out of my first eating disorder when I was like 13. And so I just started running with my dad casually. And then over time, I, did 5Ks, 10Ks with my dad, and it was super fun. I've always loved it. I was in cross country for a little bit. I did like the summer training, but I would never actually commit to a cross country season in school because I didn't like the thought of using something that I loved to like compete against other people. Like I felt like it took away the joy of it. So I never competed in it, which is so funny now that I do races and stuff like that. But running has just always been like a joy for me. So I, growing up, wanted to do marathons, but I have a very addictive mindset. And so there were many times where I would sign up for marathons, train for them, and then back out because I just got really unhealthy with it. And then finally in 2020, what was that? 2023, I think. Yeah. 2023, November, I signed up for a marathon and actually did it for the first time. I was like healthy enough to do it. And I had been running marathon distances and long distances for a while up to that. So it wasn't anything like unusual, but it was just the first like sanctioned race that I did. but I didn't know how to fuel. And so I ran a 3:32 with no water and no fuel for a marathon. Learned my lesson, but I did it, and I got the marathon bug for sure. I was like, oh yeah, I'm all in now. So I've done the Derby Marathon and then the ultra marathon, the BG ultra marathon, and ran 106 miles in 24 hours. And
the BG, what's the name of it?
The Bowling Green Hot Rod Ultra Marathon.
Yeah, the Hot Rod Ultra.
Put on by MuuvWell.
MuuvWell.
Yeah.
And then
overall winner, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. And then I just recently, a week ago, ran the Austin Marathon, and now I'm training for the Boston Marathon. So I'm super excited about all of it.
Is that one a big race? Is that a pretty big race, the Boston Marathon? I don't know if I've ever heard of it.
I've heard of it, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
No, it's a more underground one. Not a lot of people know about it.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
It's almost up to the Hardinsburg Turkey Trot level.
Yeah, it's almost
now that one I know. Yeah,
that's a big one.
Yeah, that one is big.
But yeah, I'm super excited about it. But I've never had, a trainer. I've never had a running coach. I've always made my own plans. And right now I'm going to try using the app Runna and see how that works. Because sometimes I do go overboard on training. Like I know I'm running an excess amount of miles that I really don't have to. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what that's like. But for you guys, like, how did you know even what to do, where you got started? Do you guys have training coaches? How do you build out your training throughout the week, especially with jobs, full-time jobs? What does your training look like, or your splits look like on season, off season?
I'll talk about like how I started with running, because mine's evolved a lot, and I took like the most basic route, and I still give people that are just starting running the exact same advice in the way that I did it, which was halhigdon.com. Like halhigdon.com. When I first started running, that was, and I seriously, that was the greatest thing I ever did, honestly, because you go in. So, I mean, now, especially on social media, people tend to like push you to like, oh, let me train you. Let me coach you. If people ask me and they are signed up for their first half marathon or 5K, 10K, or even marathon, and they're asking about training plans, I'm like, go to halhigdon.com, and it's completely free, and it gives you a baseline of where to go, and then just stick with it, and you're going to learn more about yourself than a coach is gonna help you. So I started with the Hal Higdon training plan. It was totally free. I think I did like the beginner for a half marathon, and then whenever I did my first marathon, I did the same thing. And it basically just gives you a weekly amount of mileage, and it also gives you a daily amount of mileage to shoot for. And that was a great starting point for me, because I kind of got a baseline of what I could maintain. And then once I did that and I started doing more ultras, then I hired my first coach, and she was somebody that has done a ton of ultra distances, marathon distance. She lives in Colorado, so she's just done a lot of really unique events. And she had like 10 plus years of experience. She was a certified coach. So for about a year and a half, I used an actual coach. And that is kind of like you referred to, Abby. The hardest part for me was the nutrition piece, was like fueling appropriately during a run. And I think that's what separated me knowledge wise, was getting a coach, because she taught me a lot about nutrition. And she was like, sometimes your body is going to feel like it doesn't want to eat, or it doesn't want to do this, but you kind of have to force yourself to, if you want to sustain throughout 26 miles or 50 miles or whatever. So using a coach was really beneficial for me to learn the things that you don't expect, which is fueling during running. And then also like appropriate rest, because I was kind of like Abby was referring to, I was overtraining. I was running way too hard and way too fast every single run. And therefore I wasn't getting faster, because every run was like a zone 3 run. Like my heart rate was way too jacked up. So then getting a coach really helped me understand like the more of the, like the advanced side of running, I guess, like the longevity, which was fueling appropriately, and then heart rate training or appropriate rest and training splits. So I used a coach for about a year and a half, and really just like leveraged her to learn as much as I could, and then implement that into these races, which is where all the trial and error that I referred to came from. And then really just kind of saved all that knowledge. And now I kind of make my own training plans, and for a number of reasons, the main one honestly being the financial piece of it, because when you pay somebody to coach you, obviously you're paying for them to help you and be really hands-on. And having a family now, I'm like, that's an expense that I don't need to have right now in our budget. And two, it's good practice for me to just have that self accountability. So yeah, I started with the bare minimum, the free basic halhigdon.com training plan. Used a coach for about a year and a half, which I highly recommend if you want to learn from someone who's done it just from practical experience from somebody. And then now I do all my programming myself. Not saying I won't ever use a coach again, but just where I'm at in life right now, I kind of have the baseline knowledge to get through a 100-mile race, which is what I have on the calendar this year. So I guess I didn't really say that, but I'm doing Tunnel Hill 100 this year.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my next race.
Yeah, I didn't. I did Hal Higdon too. I
Yeah.
think. But I think the advice I would give to runners is just start moving. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to have a plan. You don't really have to have it figured out. Even if you don't go to Hal Higdon, like just literally put on your shoes and start moving. That's kind of what I did. And I probably was like 5 minutes a day for me. We tell our clients all the time, like just start with 5 minutes a day. And that's pretty much what I did. I just made myself get out the door. And I remember early on, it was really painful to wake up early before work and do that and just put on the shoes and move, especially when it was cold like it is right now outside. But then I started just really enjoying the movement. And I think that's what that book Born to Run taught me was like, man, running can be fun. Like moving your body is a joyful experience. And so I just started doing that and like testing stuff. And like, I was trying to run barefoot. That book is really big on barefoot running. So I was like out, I remember the first time I used to live out in the country and I had this property behind me I was allowed to be on, and they had 4-wheeler trails. So I went to try to run barefoot on it, and they had just bush hogged the field. So it was just like, stabbing my feet and everything. But yeah, just trial and error. And like, I signed up for a ultra marathon, and I'd never done more than like 10 miles in my life. Like I just signed up and just was like, I'm gonna figure it out. And I crashed and burned in that race and cramped and everything went wrong, but I learned, and I think I've never had a coach. I've never, really followed a consistent plan, honestly. I did that same ultra marathon. I've done that one like 5 or 6 times.
Which one was it?
The Fall Creek Falls.
Fall Creek
50K.
Falls. Yeah, that's right.
And I did it the first year. I think I did it in like 5:40. Second year I did it in 5:38. And then the next year I think I was trying to follow like a marathon plan and adapting it. And I just stopped doing that. And I just did my own thing. And I did it in 4:28. I took over an hour time off when I stopped following a plan. Yeah. But I think what happened is I just got to be consistent, and I started understanding my body and how to eat and drink and all the stuff. And then, I just enjoy it. It's kind of like you, Abby. Like I'm a competitive person. I want to do well, but I'm competitive with myself. I'm not to say that when I'm out in the race, I don't try to beat people,
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm going to let you talk, but I think we're all like that.
But it's just like, for me, there's so much more, what you said earlier about just the joy that comes from it. Yeah. You said something, I can't remember what your quote was, but you don't run just to run for the fitness part. It's more of the solitude and the
mental fortitude.
That's what it was. Yeah. And it is my way to connect to God. Honestly, it's a very rhythmic and, just awesome movement that just helps me pray and stuff. So I don't ever plan on having a coach, I don't think. But I obviously plan on doing this a long time. So I can get in the Western States one day, but because I know how much it helps me mentally. Yeah. What about you, Wade?
Oh man, here it comes. No, I feel like mine started very similar to you guys. I started with Hal Higdon for my first half marathon. That was a novice one. Janae and I started with that plan, and that's where we stuck with it ever since. I've never had an official running coach. I do have a coach that just programs all my strength training, because for me, being a bigger guy, I'm very prone to injury. So being able to stay consistent with my strength training, that is consistent with the load that I'm doing from more of the aerobic fitness capacity, was huge for me. Just to offload, like obviously with our backgrounds, we could develop that program if we wanted to, but having someone that I can pay to take just that mental load off of me, where I can pay attention just to training and then work and then home, where I'm not trying to do 10,000 things at once. For me, it was a worthwhile investment to be able to do that.
Makes a big difference. It did for me. Yeah.
And then as far as just like in the race and all that stuff, it's just all trial and error, food, fueling. I still wouldn't even say I really have a consistent plan. I just know I need to eat at least like every hour. So I try to get some calories down and then just make sure I'm staying hydrated, So it's for me, it's nothing. It's not rocket science. I think it's just like what Kevin was saying, is just get started. And then once you get started, consistency is what's going to take you long term. Because with me, I crash and burn way too fast a lot of times. And the last 2 years, I've just been so much more consistent, either running or lifting, and just the physical fitness has stayed a lot more consistent. So just encourage people, especially just from a fitness standpoint, just be consistent with it over time. That's what's going to pay way more dividends than having the right coach, having the right shoes, having the right fuel, timing everything perfectly. just being consistent, that will pay off.
And listen
way
to your
more than all
body
that.
too.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like your body's going to tell you what to do too.
Same with
I was excited in my running club. I had somebody this week. She's training for a half marathon. It's her first one. And she was supposed to do 10 miles this weekend. And she came out and ran the 3.1 with us. And she does a lot of strength training on top of it. And she was telling me, she was like, you know what? My body's just not feeling it today. And I can tell if I push it too hard, I'll probably end up injuring myself. I was like, that's very smart as an early runner. Like, I feel like all of us starting out, we probably would have pushed it and then we're injured for 2 months.
I think we do that now still.
Man, I mean, at the end of the day, like you can fixate on all of these little nitpicky things, but like consistency is what is going to make the most progress. And I really struggle when it's cold to stay consistent because I feel like a lot of people do. It's just harder to get out. You want to stay in your bed longer. Like I am going to speak for myself, but hopefully a lot of other people when I say like a winter run compared to like a warmer run, like come on, you know, it's just harder. It takes more mental power. Like what are some ways to get through the winter? How do you stay consistent? Because I mean, that is something that I struggle with still.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, one thing that I find is you do it for like a week and then it kind of becomes just the normal for you. That's what I found is for me in the wintertime, I love getting up early and going to the gym and then running on my lunch break. Like if I have an ideal day of both strength training and cardio, then I'm going to the gym early in the morning. Obviously when it's cold, it's hard to get up and get your body moving that soon. But when I do it from Monday through Friday, I find that the next Monday, it's kind of already programmed in my brain. And I'm already thinking, okay, I'm going to lay my clothes out and get up and get ready because I've already done it for a full week. And then your body and your mind kind of get used to it. So it's kind of one of those things you just throw yourself into it and just train your brain and your body for that to be the norm. Honestly, like that's what I found. And that's honestly, there's no trick to it.
It's kind of like a cold plunge, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you just got to make yourself do it and get out there. And for me, it's always when I start, it's always cold. I'm a little uncomfortable. I found if I dress to where I'm not cold when I first go out, then I'm going to be incredibly hot while I'm running. So just making yourself get out, get started, move your feet. Like that's the, and then usually you're warm, you know, after a little while. And for me, it's just, I have to get started, you know? And that's the hardest part though, just getting myself out the door.
I think the hardest part is the first 10 minutes. Then after that, your body's warmed up. You're a few miles, not a few miles. For me, you're about a mile in and your body's warmed up. And then you don't really realize the cold unless if it's like super cold, then breathing, it may take a little bit while to get that under control. But usually it's just first 10 minutes. And after the first 10 minutes, I feel like it's just like any other normal run after that.
And honestly, like there's a lot of power, and you guys are great about getting outside all year round, but like there's a lot of power in getting outdoors when it is cold, and it just makes you feel really good because the rest of the day you're probably gonna be stuck inside, you know?
Yeah.
And oh man, it's so nice.
Well, also I think about that, that one morning you and I and Zach met here and it was really, really cold and we took off running. And I remember after about 12 minutes, 15 minutes, my body really started warming up and you get that sense of euphoria too, where you're like, you know, part of it is like, I'm just so glad I got up and got moving. And then also is like, I could have been laying in bed still right now. And I'm so glad that I'm not. And there are a lot of other people that probably wish they would have got up. And then you start thinking, I'm glad I'm not the person laying in the bed still. I'm glad I went ahead and got up.
You're proud of yourself.
You're proud of yourself. And I think that also that goes along with what I was saying. You kind of force yourself. And after about a week, you kind of becomes a part of like a rhythm for you or a routine, but also it gives you that reminder of like, I remember how I felt once I just did it. Once I got done, I was so glad that I did. So also giving yourself that little,
have you ever regretted an early morning or a cold run or like a cold workout?
Never.
Never. That's what I always tell people too, is like, once you get out and you do it, like I've never looked back and been like, man, I regretted that. Even the ones I come out injured or they don't go the way I wanted to, like I've never regretted it. You know, so like the hardest part is usually just getting started. And then once you get out there, I've always enjoyed it.
One time when I was early days of running, we used to live out in Alvaton, Kentucky. So like about 20 minutes from here. And I had this big loop. It was before one of those ultras, like the Fall Creek Falls one. And I was going to go on a 20-mile run and it was freezing cold. It was like maybe under 10. Like it was really, really cold. And I had a handheld water bottle and all the water froze during my run. And I remember I was like 3 miles from the house. I was like, gosh, I can't see very good. Like I was like, it was just getting hard to see. And when I got home, my whole face had iced over. Like sometimes I'll get the beard thing or a little bit of eyelashes, but like literally, like it was all ice. Like I couldn't see because there was ice over my eyes. And I remember like the cars passing me, like looking at me and stuff,
honking at you.
But you know what? That was the most hardcore feeling.
yeah.
Afterward, of course, I had to like take a selfie of myself.
It's the
and send
best.
my brother, because I felt awesome. Now that was one where like my hands were cold and all this stuff, but still, like even that feeling of, man, I still went out and did it. Like, oh man, it was awesome.
I think that's also what you just said is a reminder that if you're training for a competition, especially an outdoor competition like a run, and you're training any time of year, it could be pouring down rain, it could be freezing cold. Like you just don't know. Like when I did my 50 miler last weekend, it was the day before my run, it was like tornado watches and storms. And then I woke up that morning and it was snowing and it was like 18 degrees. It's like, you just don't know what the weather's going to be like. So if you're only training in perfect or ideal conditions to you, then it's not doing any good.
And depending on when your race is in the year, you're going to either be training in the cold or in the intense heat like that. Especially where we live here in Kentucky, like there's going to be no middle ground for it.
And then I realized, and I say this quote all the time, but it was during a run. I was 4 miles in on this run. I remember the moment specifically, and like it just started snowing. It was one of those mornings I didn't want to go out, and I told myself, put yourself in tough situations and force yourself to succeed. Now, you guys hear me say that all the time, but I was on a run that I realized that, and then I started realizing like you can take, and this is where I think why we all love this stuff is you can take all the running stuff. Here I go with the purpose of the talk.
I was waiting. How long has it been? How long we've been recording, Abby?
20 minutes maybe.
That's pretty good.
But you can apply all these same concepts to life. So it's almost like your run is a rehearsal for your actual life. So when things actually get hard, you can like go back to the
run away from
your run. There's a lot of power in that. I think that's why we just all keep getting up and doing it. I mean, because if we were just doing it for the physical part, I know I wouldn't do it. No, if I was just doing it for physical movement and that was it, I would not be consistent with it.
Last thing because Abby gets up earlier than all of us and runs now. But the last thing I want to add is a perfect example of it not just being for the physical is we always talk about after we do a big effort, everything we do in life seems so easy for the next week, 2 weeks, right? Like that's just an example of how it shifts your perspective mentally. When you do something really, really hard and you come back after you finish that, whatever that thing is, for the next week, 2 weeks, everything you do in life is going to feel so easy, whether it's a work project, whether it's getting up early to go do some mobility, whether it's making a 5-hour drive for a family trip, whatever it is, like your perspective is just so skewed in the best of ways because it really shows you what is actually difficult in life. And it just totally changes your perspective.
Yeah, that was a new record for Kevin. It was actually 31 minutes.
Wow. That's a lot. Wow.
Really good.
Give it up, guys. Give
I'm
it up.
thoroughly impressed with that. But I mean, the biggest thing for me that it is the biggest motivator is, Abby, remind yourself how you feel if you don't do it. Like, what's the feeling of if you don't do it? And it's always worse than being cold. Always. Like, that has gotten me out of bed so many times at that early 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm someone who likes to get it done before everything else in the day so that I can go through the day relaxed and not have that lingering thought of like, when am I going to fit my run in? What if something comes up? Blah, 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 blah. I just know that's how I think. And so I'll sacrifice that extra hour, even though it's like a little bit more painful. How would you feel if you don't? You know what I mean? And, we're all, for the listener, we're all runners here. You don't have to go out and run. We're not saying like that's the only way. That's not the only way to get in physical activity. But I am a firm believer that physical activity within like the first moments of your day really can set you up for success and kind of like be a release. And so maybe that's like, I know a lot of people that are more focused on lifting, like go on the treadmill and do that fasted cardio for 30 minutes early in the morning, like put on a YouTube video or whatever, or
be quiet and just listen to your thoughts.
Exactly.
That's even more scary.
Or just, craft something that you really like to do. If you don't like to run, like don't do it. We all do it because we love it, but it's just not as enjoyable sometimes, but we still stay consistent because that's what's important in accomplishing your goals. But maybe you like to bike, maybe you like to lift, maybe you like to do yoga, whatever it is, like commit to the commitments, commit to your commitments, because you wouldn't bail on someone else. So why are you going to bail on yourself? All that to say, we train a lot, but we also need to recover. And I feel like in winter, sometimes it's a little harder to do that. I feel like wintertime, we get a little more busy, a little more like zoned in on work and things. And we let some of the other things kind of slack. But I find, especially in the winter time, it's more important to stretch, more important to be mobile, because everything's more cold. So you're more injury prone. And I don't know, Wade, you can probably like touch on the scientific parts of that, but my brain feels that way. So I feel like there's something to it. So how do you prioritize recovery, mobility, especially when things get busy?
Real quick, before I think Wade obviously needs to lead this, but one thing on the last thing we were just talking about
Purpose, huh?
yeah, getting up, the getting up early thing. A really good way to get involved and get into a morning routine also that I found. I love seeing the same, like if you go to a gym, if you're a gym goer, I love going to the gym and seeing the same people every
What's up,
morning.
man? How's it going?
Yeah, and like seriously, how powerful is that? Like
Community,
I go to
Yeah.
BAC and whenever I go to BAC, I usually go like the 5 to 5:30 a.m. crowd. If I go in the mornings, usually 3 to 5 days a week, depending on what my training looks like. And it's always the same people. And I always make the joke, it's always the old heads in there. It's like the 30 to 60 year olds. It's kind of a bigger range, but like that age group. And there's something so cool about walking in. Is like, oh, am I going to see Mike today? Am I going to see Abby today? Am I going to see Sam today? Whoever it is. And so I think that is something that also helps me too. That's a big part of it too. Just
like
the community
accountability.
aspect. Yeah. And the
It's
accountability.
too.
Yeah. And and if you're not in there for a little bit and I walk in, like there's the same guy who's like, Logan, where you been?
Yeah.
Look who's back. Look who's, and so I
Yeah.
think having that as well is also big. But yeah, going back to recovery now. But I did want to throw that in there because that's a big part for me too.
Logan just throws everything off. So
Yeah.
thank you for adding that
That's
in.
what I do, man. I'm an
that
anomaly.
was really great. Thank
Yeah.
you for that. No, but community is a huge aspect of it too. And I feel like for me, from more of a mobility recovery aspect, I feel like most of my importance is on sleep in recovery. I think it's easier, obviously, to sleep in the winter. It's darker longer, unless you have kids and they're just up all the time. So the sleep is very important just for your overall recovery. But for me, from like a mobility perspective, foam rolling, stretching, yoga, whatever you want to do, I usually try to do that at least once or twice a week, maybe just like 15, 20 minutes before or after a workout, like a lifting session. But then also, I mean, my strength training is a lot of mobility training because I'm doing full range of motion movement loaded with weights, which honestly is going to provide me more mobility than if I just went and stretched for an hour, honestly. So that's where I feel like for more of the injury prevention for me has been a lot more paramount, and where I've seen a lot of it pay off more so than just focusing solely on stretching for me. And then there's a lot of other crazy things out there you can do from a recovery perspective. But I think if you're just getting started and you're trying to focus on recovery, sleep is going to be your best friend versus going out and buying a sauna, going out and buying a cold plunge, going out and buying an R ring or whatever type of recovery device to tell you specifically like your recovery metrics, and then just go off feel, kind of like what we talked about, the consistency, trial and effort of just kind of seeing where you're at. Is a big thing when it comes to recovery.
Just drinking water too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like sleep and drink water.
Yeah.
Like and not that supplements are bad, but I think we can overdo supplements. And I think everybody thinks
they're called supplements for a reason.
Yeah, I'm working out, so now I've got to take all these things. Like, well, no, you don't really. I mean, if you have a balanced diet, you're fine.
Yeah.
And then it's a lot cheaper just to eat well. Now, obviously, if you need to supplement your diet with those, do that. But that should not be working out. Doesn't mean you have to take supplements. So I think that's the first thing everybody does, and then, like you said, all these other big modalities for recovery, just sleep and drink water. Like it's really simple. Like our bodies are insane machines. Like they are so uniquely designed and created. Like they are incredible. There's nothing on earth like a human body, and then we think we have to do all these things. Like they have a lot of really natural recovery things if we let them recover,
Yeah.
So sleep, drink water. Try not to be stressed.
Honestly, more mindful. Like quiet time.
Like,
prayer.
Yeah.
I know
all
for
that
me,
is huge.
my body hurts when I'm stressed.
I was about to go on that.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a scientific fact, right? I mean, that can cause physical pain.
Yeah.
I just think about some of the people that I know that are, very mobile and stuff into their older age. They're not stressed, and I do think that impacts your physical health.
Well, I think finding the things that do stress you and mitigating those is big. Like for our family right now, and obviously it's changed since we had our daughter, but for us, we like being home on nights that we have work the next day and we're taking our daughter to the babysitter. So we like to be home, and like, if we're not home by a certain time and like kind of doing the same things around the same time, like we get stressed out. And because I know if we're not doing that, then our sleep is going to be wrecked. We're not going to go to bed at the same time. And that takes away from the rest and recovery aspect of it. Like that's a big part for me. But I think Yeah, honestly, I used to be big on like, I got a foam roll every single day. I'm going to go and get in the sauna like 4 days a week and all that. And all that stuff is good and still helps me.
Yeah.
But what I've found is that just implementing the rest portion, especially into my life as candidly as I can. So for me, what I've been doing, especially after this run, the big effort last Sunday was I have Thera Ice like sleeves. You just put them in the freezer, they get cold, and you just pull them up over your knees for like leg sleeves. And that's what I've been doing for recovery. When we lay our daughter down at night, my wife and I come out, sit on the couch, and I throw those knee sleeves on. I'm like, that's easy. It's
Logan's got
free
his
at this
stockings
point.
he puts on at nighttime.
My what?
Your stocking,
My little
your
stockings,
nightgown.
my little toes, keep my toes warm.
Yeah.
No, but I put those on, and I'm just sitting on the couch and resting rather than like doing stuff that's going to stress me out and constantly scrolling or whatever. I'm just trying to make the most of my time, but then also is just trying to hydrate as much as I can, especially as you get older too. It's like just drinking as much water as you can.
And that's specific rest and recovery modalities, right? But inside of your training, you need to have a lot of easy runs, easy lifts to allow your body's not able to go 100% all the time, right? So I mean, a lot of your recovery comes into just listening to your body, like what Kevin said, and like taking those rest days when you need them. And the rest days doesn't mean not do anything at all, right? It's more active rest. I think last week you talked about like, heck, just going out and gardening or like doing chores around the house or chores outside, or like going on an easy run where your heart rate's not through the roof, trying to prove something to people on Strava. I know I've been there before, it's motivating.
That's why I'm not on it.
So that's also a method of recovery for people. That they need to
I don't know if this is the right approach, but it's worked for me. If just like I have a weekly mileage goal, and you guys know that. Like when I'm not training for anything, it's 38 miles a week every week. That's 2,000 miles a year if I do that. But what I like about it now, when I'm doing a race, I might amp that up a little bit, but still, my volume's not super high.
Yeah.
But what I like about it is like it gives me flexibility to listen to my body, but also to be flexible with my schedule. So if like, okay, the first 3 days of the week are terrible, I can't run or whatever, or maybe I'm hurting. Well, maybe I can, put a little bit more later in the week, or vice versa. I go heavy early in the week because I know I've got a lot of traveling going on, and it's been really good for me because I can still hit my goal. And I have some flexibility within the plan, though, in a sense. And then I like you said, I only try to run hard 1 to 2 days a week. I love running hills, and right now I'm doing a lot of treadmill work, like incline treadmill. I'll do that 1, maybe 2 days a week, or I'll run fast 1 or 2 days a week. But that's it. And the other time is pretty easy, relaxed. That's one thing I did do wrong, like you said. Like when I started, I would just run hard every single day.
I always did.
And especially, and if you're not familiar with what Strava is that Wade just talked about, it's are you on Strava, Abby? Are you on there? It's like a run tracking app, basically.
Especially it's like social media for running.
Yeah. Any kind of
it has other things too,
cycling and stuff. And I used to be on that. And it's the creators that are awesome. They're very smart because they basically rank you in certain areas of town and stuff like that. And so you can be the king of the mountain or whatever, the fastest in the segment. And I was on that, and I was just running hard all the time because I was being prideful and wanted people to think I was awesome, basically. So I had to just get off of it. And once I did that, I was able to enjoy my runs more and run slower and actually listen to my body. And that helped a lot.
You want to be king of your subdivision, right?
Yeah.
You want to show everybody you're the fastest one around your loop.
No,
you got a fast subdivision.
Too many fast people in our subdivision.
Yeah, that's what I had to do with Strava. I have Strava, and I have it to join like running groups, but I don't put my paces on there because of that reason. Exactly.
Really?
Like I know that if I go on a run, I'm going to think like, oh, I want to post this on Strava after, so I'm going to push it more than I need to because of that pridefulness.
So it doesn't show your pace when you...
No, I mean, you can hide it, but I just I don't post it at all. Like I literally only have the account to join different groups. So like local run clubs, which Logan, you should plug the Strava group that MuuvWell has.
Yeah. Hot Rod Ultra training group on Strava. So I think we have like 30 something people in there, but basically if you're on Strava, if you don't have Strava, it really is great. I kind of feel guilty because I do a lot. I don't really consume on Strava very much. Like I don't give out kudos or like I'll comment on people's big efforts or races if I know they're training for it.
Absolutely messed up.
Never gave me
kudos.
If you gave me more, we would have still be on.
Amanda texted me and said Kevin was literally in tears because I never gave him kudos on Strava. Like he was crying one night because that's why he deleted the app. But no, the training group is called the Hot Rod Ultra Training Group. It's open to the public, and it's just a cool way for people to post about what they're training for. And also it's kind of just a hub for the Hot Rod Ultra event each year, which is cool.
Yeah, that's super awesome. So biggest training takeaway within what you've been doing so far? What's the biggest thing that you've learned?
Oh gosh.
That's like a loaded question.
Yeah,
I'll give you guys time to think because I was marinating on it.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah. I think just the biggest thing I've learned across the board has been listen to your body. And with that, listen to your gut, because the Lord speaks to me through my gut. Like, I feel him so evidently in my gut, and my gut with training has never failed me, because I start in the word and start with the Lord, pray before the runs, pray before the lifts. And with listening to that and listening to my body, it's not going to fail you, whether that's in a race, whether that's just a regular training day. Like, we've said, you've never regretted going on a run. For the most part, I haven't regretted taking an unplanned rest day either, because when I'm listening to that, hey, you need to slow down. Hey, you need to stop. For someone who, like a lot of runners is very like go, go, go mindset, that is just as impactful, if not more. You don't want to train on a body that's running on empty. And so, yeah, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway is like, just, yes, push yourself. Also, listen to your body and what it's telling you, because your body's not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's good, because I don't think a lot of people get to that point that you get to where you need that rest, right? Some people may, I don't know how to say it delicately. I'm trying to be nice.
Be soft, make excuses.
Just saying, like, a lot of people will go hard for a couple days and then stop and never do something again, right?
Yeah.
So to the volume that Abby's doing, you're putting in over 100-mile weeks, so your body does need rest a lot into that. But I feel like for me, the biggest training takeaway, and I've already said it probably 5 or 6 times, it's just consistency for me. It's
just took mine.
You're welcome, Kevin. We're too predictable at this point in our life. But it's just staying consistent. And like Kevin is 38 miles a week. I mean, that's consistent. It's predictable. It's easy to stay on top of. For mine, it's usually try to run 2 to 3 days a week and lift 3 days a week. And for me, it's just staying consistent over time, not getting too high or too low with it. The volume's going to change with a specific event you're training for. But never going, for me, I try not to miss a workout 2 days in a row. So like if I miss one day, I always try to get back in that next day, just so I don't get out of the rhythm, because it's so easy for me to fall into basically just like a terrible pity party for myself and like kind of revert back. Used to be, but in the last couple of years, I've stayed much more on top of it. So consistency, not just in running, but anything you do, is going to be the key to long-term being able to stick with it.
Since you stole my consistency, I think for me, it's just like get started and then just play, like have fun with it. Like, so I love, like, I'll kind of do the same thing, Abby. I'll, like, when I'm running, I'll be just kind of, I pray the whole time usually. I don't run with any headphones or anything ever. So I'm listening to my body, praying, trying to listen to the Lord. And sometimes I can feel like, you're supposed to turn this way, and I just go, that's what I do love. I do run with GPS, because I like seeing, not having to run the same route, because I know it's a certain distance. Like, if with GPS, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And if I want to do 7 miles, I'll just kind of go wherever my mind tells me to go. So, maybe one day I'll turn this way. Maybe one day I'm like running this same loop on a trail over and over, or whatever. Like, it's always different. And I like just playing around and testing myself of like, I'm going to run this hill 20 times a day and just try it, and I think that's when you start improving, is when you start challenging yourself and switching it up a little bit too, so, but also just get started. Like, if you don't have fancy shoes, you don't have any, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can literally run in anything. Yes, there's some shoes that are better than others. I'd recommend Hoka's. I love Hoka's, but some people don't like those. But just get started and have fun with it, and challenge yourself in different ways.
I think my biggest training takeaway is definitely just leave your ego at the door. That's the biggest thing that I've had to learn. And it kind of covers all facets of running, because sometimes you get really humbled, and you just a really sobering feeling when you feel like you trained really well for something, and you go out on the race or go out on the effort and you blow up, or your nutrition isn't going, and you kind of had this, you feel like you've built this expectation, and then you go out there and it goes, and the reality hits and nothing goes according to plan. So I think leaving your ego at the door just really allows you to listen to your body, and it allows you to have fun with it, because you go out with expectations, but they're very minimal in terms of, I'm just going to meet myself wherever I'm at. And I'm not going to worry about what I thought today was going to look like. And I'm not going to worry about what other people might think about this run, because where I'm at right now, my journey is totally different than where somebody else's is. And so leaving your ego out of it and allowing yourself to just kind of be wherever you're at has been so powerful for me, because it allows me to go in with more of an open mind and actually listen and digest. Maybe I try this next time, or rather than the approach of, oh, what? No, I just need to push through this. It just, my body's out of whack today. It's like, no, maybe you just try something different, and that's all right. And you don't have to have a super shoe. You don't have to have this t-shirt. You don't have to have these pair of shorts. And I really struggled with that in the beginning, especially on Strava and my splits and my paces, was I was running hard every time. And I remember always, like, every run had to be below 8 minute mile,
I did that
8
too.
minute per mile split.
I never let myself go over 8 minutes.
Ever over 8 minutes. And I would like be doing the math in my head of,
That'd be nice.
if I had like a couple miles that were like 8:06, okay,
Oh.
what do I need to do to make up for the under 8 minutes for my overall split? And now I go out and just like run easy. I'm like, if I want to run further today, so I'm going to slow it. I'm going to pull it back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I would have never been able to do that before. And so just learning to leave my ego at the door has been the biggest takeaway I've ever had.
I think too, like, don't run for other people. Like,
Yeah.
I used to run for other people. Like, I used to run to look cool on social media, to look cool on Strava, to try to get an age group award or whatever. And I realized, like, that's not a sustainable thing, and it takes the joy out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned to just start running, for me, because it draws me closer to God. And I honestly don't really care. I mean, I want to do well in a race. I want to push myself. But if I don't win, whatever. And if I get a medal, like the 100 miler I did in November, I've just found the buckle on the floor of the car.
Yeah, you thought you lost it.
I lost it. It was just rolling around the floor of the car for like 3 months. I don't even care. I don't even know.
Asher was wearing it as basketball
I have
games.
no
Yeah.
idea where that thing's at. I don't even care about any of the medals or anything. And it's like, and honestly, like, if you don't do any races, whatever, like, if you just run because you like running, that's fine. Like, you don't have to go out and do a bunch of races. You don't have to be the person with, medals all over your wall in your bedroom and stuff, because all that's for show.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it just for show, it's not going to be sustainable. And for me, I found running and fitness, or just physical movement in general, is a gift from God, man. Like, the fact that I can go out and move my body, and the fact that I could go out and really run any distance whenever I want right now, like, that is such a blessing and a gift.
Yeah, it is.
And if I just try to make that about somebody else or looking cool or whatever, it's going to take all the joy out of that. And I think that's important too.
I think y'all have hit a little bit on it too, but I think another big piece is also finding a community inside of what you enjoy doing too.
Yeah.
Like Logan going to the gym and seeing people that are there at 5:30 in the morning, like you said, if they haven't seen you for a couple of days, they'll start asking to help hold you accountable. Or obviously just working here, we all and say hold each other accountable, but we're always checking in on what we're training for and how we're doing, making sure we're not falling off the wagon too much. And then even other running clubs you can go to, or other fitness clubs, just having that community of being a part of something bigger than yourself is huge too, I think. And I think that's something I feel like a lot of people fall out of if they played high school sports or sports later in life. You kind of lose that community aspect. So having that around something bigger than yourself, I think is big later in life too.
Huge.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, comparison is the thief of joy. Whether you're comparing yourself to other people or comparing yourself, to your previous self. And there's a difference between motivated by your previous self and comparing and beating yourself down. And I love hearing that. Like, rather than looking at other people as competition, look at them as community. Kevin, I really liked what you said about it really stood out to me when you were like, do I go this way or do I go this way?
Yeah.
Because to tap back into I love to talk about Jesus, but to tap back into, like, people may be like, well, how do you like pray while you run? How do you whatever? Like, how do you even know that like God is speaking to you? And when you said specifically, like, do I go this way? Do I go this way? Like, that might, to the unbeliever, it might seem like crazy. Like, why are you like, what do you mean? Just go, like, turn the corner. It doesn't matter. But something that I learned that like changed everything for me was, you wouldn't sit down with someone that you met for the first time and be like, what is the meaning of life? What is the big thing that you've ever, well, yeah, maybe Kevin might, but what is the answer to all of the world's problems? Here, let me trauma dump on you and tell you everything about, you wouldn't do that when you first meet someone. And not saying you can't do that with God, because God is different than the average person. But what I am saying is, you start with like, what do you do? What, like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite food? What do you like? And I mean, if we want to grow a relationship with God and understand what his voice sounds like, we've got to start with those silly little questions of like, do I turn this way or do I go this way? I just think it puts things into perspective in building that relationship.
Does. Yeah.
But in closing, I'm springing this on you guys. Y'all didn't know that this was part of the plan today, but it popped into my head and I think it'd be really fun. So we talked about comparison and we talked about comparing things and how to not do that. But now we're going to do exactly that. And we're going to play
right.
Would You Rather Runner Edition.
Okay.
So I just randomly looked up this on a very reputable source. It's called
Country living.
Countryliving.com, European edition.
It's actually called runladylike.com. So
I got this one in the bag.
Yeah.
okay. So would you rather run a 5K or a marathon?
I normally would say I'd rather do an ultra than a 5K, but I hate marathons are really hard. I think I go 5K.
I think I'd do marathon.
I think
if I'm
5K,
being honest.
honestly.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know because it's like I would want to run both fast, so it's a matter of I don't know. I'll probably go marathon.
Yeah.
I love the marathon distance though because when you get to that like 20-mile mark, it's that you have that
Both
feeling
my
of like
marathons I've done have been horrible. So
Really?
I hated it. Yeah.
I would probably go marathon. There's something about it, like that 19-20-mile wall, and you're like pushing through it. Yeah.
You truly love running when you choose a marathon over a 5K.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather run a flat race in the heat or a hilly race in the colds?
Easy. Hilly race in the cold.
No.
Mm.
Hilly race in the heat and cold. I love anything hilly. I love hills.
Yeah.
That's actually crazy because I would do flat
I love
any
hills.
day.
I think I'd probably go hilly in the cold. Honestly, I love like being able to really push it.
I think the hills break up the race too.
Yeah.
Like it gives you like
That's
a
what I
sense of accomplishment. You get to the top, then you got
Yeah.
something else to look
Got the
forward to.
downhill.
When you just run something flat, you can see for miles. I feel like that's way more mentally draining.
I can
Yeah,
fuel
yeah,
better in
it
the
is.
cold too.
See, I love it flat because I can just zone out. Like I just
Yeah.
don't think about it. That shocked me
I love
actually.
hills. Like,
Yeah.
I will do a hill run every single run.
That's
Yeah.
That's actually crazy. Y'all are crazy. Okay. Would you rather get new running shoes or a new running outfit?
Considering I've been needing shoes for about
I'll
a
go
year
shoe-
now, probably
I'll
a new
go-
pair of shoes.
Oh, yeah,
I'd
you're
go
asking
shoes.
a bunch of guys.
I'd go shoes. I can crop top any
I
t-shirt.
know my wife. My wife would go running outfit for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got shoes
Would you rather run a marathon without headphones or a Garmin?
without headphones, for sure. Without headphones,
Oh yeah, with that.
I don't care about
Yeah.
the music.
I felt like that one was a
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
easy one. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would probably do without a Garmin.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I mean, okay, technically I run in a Coros, so like it doesn't really matter. But I would do it without a
Without a
watch.
smartwatch?
Because
Yeah.
I don't look at my watch during races.
Oh really?
Yeah. I don't do it because if I'm starting to focus on pace, it takes away the joy
Yeah.
of actually running. So I
Yeah.
just kind of go off feel.
Can you take off the setting where it buzzes every mile?
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
can.
need to learn how to do that because
Yeah.
that would be very hard to be in a race and you don't look down every single mile.
Yeah, I just love headphones during a race because I listen to worship music and I feel like it helps me kind of connect
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather choose a race because of the convenience or because of the swag? Like what you get.
Convenience. I love a good race close to home now. Like it makes it the travel and logistics so much easier.
That's why I love the Ultra because
Yeah.
I literally brought a Yeti cooler full of food and just had it there. Didn't have
Yeah.
to worry about it.
I go convenience too. I don't really care about swag.
Yeah,
at
I mean his
all,
belt
really.
buckle laid in his
I
his
just
van
don't
floor
care.
for weeks, months, I guess.
Convenience for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all pretty unanimous on that one. Okay. A couple more. Would you rather run a PR that results in an injury or finish strong and miss a PR?
Oh gosh. I'm gonna
Gotta
be.
go
I'm,
injury.
I think I gotta go. I gotta
I
go.
guess how severe is the injury?
Yeah, I
That's the
gotta go
question.
ego here and say if we were just talking, leave my ego at the door. But when it comes to races, though, I think if you're training for a specific time, I'm not a PR or ER, but if I feel like if I'm feeling
PR
like,
urgent care, maybe.
if I know like my hamstring is ripped and I feel it, obviously that's different. But if it's like my knee is bugging me a little bit, I have some foot pain, like I'm pushing to go for the PR.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I
if
guess
it-
it depends on how severe.
yeah, obviously I'm not trying to be injured and out for months.
What was
but
the other one? Finish strong and what?
miss a PR?
Yeah, I would get injured.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to an extent.
I would miss the PR
Really?
because I'd
You're
wanna
smarter
keep
than us.
running.
Smarter than us. Younger
Well,
and wiser.
Well, I don't know if it's that, but I mean, I guess it might be another pride thing too. But like, I don't really like to take too much time off. And if
Yeah.
I get injured, I'm gonna have to take some time off.
That's
But
true.
I love running too much.
But I think it kind of goes back to like if I'm training for a specific time that I want to I want to hit, it's going to eat me up, and I'm gonna have to go back and do it again anyway. So I'm like, let's dog it out for a couple miles and let's get it done. I can move on to the next
if I
thing.
had to take more than a month off, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, like
if it was like 2 weeks, I would take the injury.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess
That's
that's
not
fair.
really an injury. I guess that's
Yeah.
maybe I am. I don't know.
I don't know, man.
We can think about it.
Yeah.
We can ponder. Okay, last one. Last one, best one. Would you rather run on a treadmill for an hour or run around the same street block for an hour? Which I feel like I've done both.
I'm
at some
Different.
point in
Yeah,
my life,
I'm
but
indifferent
I do
about that.
I do both of those all the time.
I'm
I don't really
indifferent.
care.
If it was just like a normal day, I would definitely choose the treadmill because like I could do a block for an hour, but I'd rather do it on the treadmill so I could like watch TV or something. But
Yeah.
if it's for like a race, I'd rather choose the road any day.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather run outside 10 out of 10 times, but I'm indifferent on that one. I don't mind a
I actually
treadmill.
like the treadmill.
What's the furthest everybody's run on a treadmill? I'm curious.
I think I've done 20 miles before.
I think 18 is my furthest.
2 hours, so probably around.
About 2 miles.
Yeah.
I think
I was
either
walking
15
really
or
fast that day.
15 or 16,
Okay.
I think.
I think mine's like 18.
I think mine's like 19.
No, I think mine is 21. Now that I
It
think
might have
about
been
it.
22 actually.
All right. What we're doing sometime in 2025, we're all going to run a marathon on a treadmill.
That's
We're all
Yeah,
going
we
to do
could
it
do that.
together.
Let's
All
do
right.
that. That'd be
Anyways, I could go on and on and on. I mean, there's a ton of these on
Give us a
here,
couple
but-
more. Why not?
Okay, might as well. Okay, here we go. Would you rather come in 4th in the Olympics or 1st at the New York City Marathon?
Ooh.
Gosh.
What Olympic event?
I guess running.
Marathon.
Yeah,
Marathon?
marathon.
I think I might go to New York City.
I think I'm gonna go to New York. I mean, you think about,
There's some really, a lot of the people at the New York City Marathon
Or
are in the
Olympic.
Olympics.
yeah.
So I think
And you also think about, if you want monetary, the brand partnerships that would come from that.
Hey, you
be
know
pretty
what? I'm going
significant.
Olympics all the way. I want that Olympic tattoo. Look cool.
Oh, you want the rings?
Oh,
I want
okay.
the rings.
That's
Let people
fair.
know that I'm cool the rest of my life. You know,
Yeah.
not worrying about the praise of others. But I think the Olympics, people know the people that have been in the Olympics, and there's such a big deal made out of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I think just being able
More
to
of a
train
legacy.
so long for 4 years for one shot versus going
One
to do a race
opportunity.
everybody can do every year would be a much bigger deal, much
Yeah.
bigger accomplishment.
Yeah.
What
More of a
about you?
legacy.
I'm going to go ahead and declare for 2028 in LA, by the way.
Here it is,
I
folks.
love it. I love it.
Ribbon dancing.
I don't
Break
know
dance.
what I would do. I feel like honestly probably New York.
I'd go
I'd
New
li-
York.
like coming in first.
I
Wait,
know.
was it first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First.
Can you
Coming in
imagine?
first, like what a
Like
flex.
hundreds of thousands of people everywhere watching, cheering.
Can you imagine 4th at the
Nobody remembers the 4th Olympic person.
Like, who was that guy that got 4th again?
yeah, nobody
Yeah.
cares.
That'd be awesome.
That's
Okay.
why I would do it. I'm not doing it for the praise of others, guys.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
just said you're getting the Olympic tattoo.
Okay,
So-
this is the actual last
All
one.
right.
All right.
Would you rather give up running for 3 years to get a Boston qualifying time or never qualify for Boston
Never
but run as
qualify for
much as you
Boston.
want?
never
Yeah,
qualify.
never
Yeah, I
qualify
kind
for
of knew
Boston.
the answer to this one.
Give up for 3. No, I'm just
Yeah, I'd never qualify for Boston.
I mean, the thought of giving up running.
I'll
I
do
mean,
one
at
of those
some point, I
anyways.
feel like that'll have to happen. But I'm
Doesn't
like,
have to?
well, I guess it doesn't.
Doesn't have to. It might be
mean,
slower. I mean, it really walking is the same as running. It's just slower.
You know what?
Right?
That
I mean,
statement that I
mechanics-wise,
just said, it was applying to last week's episode of when you age. Because my immediate thought was like, well, I'm going to age and then I'm not going to be able to run. But that's not true.
That's
That's
not
not
true,
true.
Abby.
Yeah, it's not
That's
true at all.
And if you want to know more about that, you can go listen to last week's
Last week's
episode.
episode. That's a great
Just
stopping
sit in
point, isn't it,
saunas all
Abby?
the time. That's the trick.
What'd you say?
Just sit in the sauna. All
Sit in the
time.
sauna, yeah. Just sweat it out. You'll get faster that way. You never age if you sit in the sauna. Infrared saunas don't age you. No, I think it's a good stopping point this week. Yeah. That was a fun little ending there. But yeah, hopefully I feel like that was good conversation today, and all of our perspectives really got to show. So hopefully you get some tips from this. But yeah, we talked a lot about the Hot Rod Ultra today. So if you're interested in putting a race on your 2025 calendar, we are officially at 49 registrants.
And we just got the title sponsor.
We did just get the title
we need to
sponsor.
announce
So
that
let's
on
let's
there.
give a shout out to Tony Walker Financial. That's a locally founded maybe business,
locally founded
owned in
offices in Bowling Green and Louisville.
Louisville. Yeah. So we
Yeah.
officially have our title sponsor for the 2025 Ultra. So shout out to Tony Walker Financial. That's huge. This is the
Yeah.
first time we've ever put out a title sponsor opportunity. It's always been multiple people that could kind of be the presenting sponsor. We put it out there this year, and we kind of were like, if anybody's going to do it, it might be Tony Walker, because he's just been such an awesome representation of the event and of the community the last couple of years. And sure enough, he jumped on it. So we're super
Yeah.
appreciative of Tony Walker and his support for the last multiple years of the event. So yeah, if you're interested in looking for a race for the 2025 calendar, Abby can vouch for it. We've all run on the course. You can go to hotrodultra.com. It's a very affordable race, especially for the experience and the atmosphere that you get. Sally McRae is going to be there this year at our kickoff event, which is the night before. That's included in your registration. So you'll see and hear Sally speak on Friday, September 26th. And then Saturday, September 27th will be the actual race day. You can do 12 hours solo, 24-hour solo, or 24 hours in a group relay, so a team of 4. So if you want to sign up, hotrodultra.com. Come join us. We'd love to have you. We'll catch you next week.